My friends, life is a gift, a journey written with chapters of triumph and trials. And yet, no matter where you stand today, whether in success or in struggle, you are never more than one decision away from a new life. History is not shaped by those who had it easy, but by those who dared to decide. Ordinary men and women who chose to stand, to believe, to rise again, and in doing so, they rewrote the story of their lives, and in many cases, the story of the world. My friends, there is something extraordinary hidden inside of you right now. It is not your background, it is not your education, it is not even your talent. It is something far greater, far more powerful, and it is the one thing that can turn your entire life around. That something is your ability to choose. The greatest gift God ever gave mankind after life itself is the power of choice. Think about it. Every morning when you open your eyes, you are handed the pen that writes the story of that day. You may not be able to control the weather, you may not be able to control the economy, you may not be able to control what others say or do to you, but you can always control how you respond. And your response is your choice. That is the key to freedom, the key to destiny, and the key to transformation. Choice is the dividing line between those who remain trapped in yesterday and those who step boldly into tomorrow. It is not what happens to you that defines you. It is what you decide to do about what happens to you. Two people can experience the same setback, the same disappointment, the same rejection. One chooses bitterness and they shrink into hopelessness. The other chooses to rise, and they discover strength they never knew they had. What made the difference? Not luck, not chance, not circumstances, but choice. Think of the farmer standing in a barren field with soil that looks dry and unpromising. The easy choice would be to fold his arms, to say there is no hope, to walk away. But the farmer who chooses to plant a seed anyway is the one who reaps a harvest tomorrow. It is not the ground that guarantees his future. It is his choice to believe in what the ground can become. Consider the young student who feels the weight of failure. Their grades are low, their teachers doubt them, their friends laugh at them. They can choose to accept the label of failure, or they can choose to stay up one more hour, read one more page, take one more step. And that choice, though small, begins to shift the course of their life. Even in matters of the heart, choice is supreme. A broken heart can choose to shut the world out, to build walls so high that no one can enter again. Or it can choose the courage to forgive, to heal, to love again. And though it hurts, that decision opens the door to joy that bitterness could never give. My friends, hear me clearly. Life is not waiting on chance. It is waiting on choice. Too many people sit by the roadside of life, waiting for something magical to happen. They say, when the right opportunity comes, then I will rise. They say, when my circumstances change, then I will move. But they do not realize that opportunities are not seized by those who wait. They are seized by those who decide. The decision to act, to try to believe, is what pulls tomorrow into today. Do you know why choice is so powerful? Because it aligns you with the destiny God already placed in you. You see, your future is not something you stumble into by accident. It is something you step into by decision. The power to choose makes you a co-creator of your tomorrow. You are not a victim of life, you are an architect of it. Choice is the bridge between your potential and your reality. Potential is what you could be, what you could have, what you could achieve. But potential is useless unless you decide to activate it. A seed can hold an entire forest, but unless someone chooses to plant it, that forest remains hidden. Locked away in silence, your potential is waiting on your decision. And here is the truth: indecision is still a decision. To delay, to postpone, to refuse to act, that too is a choice, but it is a choice that robs you of growth. Some people spend years in the valley of indecision, paralyzed by fear, afraid to fail. But the refusal to choose is the most dangerous choice of all, because it hands your future over to chance instead of destiny. Every great achievement you admire began with a decision. Every leader who rose from obscurity, every entrepreneur who built from nothing, every inventor who transformed the world, they all had one thing in common: they decided. They decided not to quit. They decided to believe. They decided to move when others stayed still. They decided to try again when failure knocked them down. And you, right where you are, have that same power. The power of choice does not belong to the wealthy or the privileged or the talented alone. It belongs to every man, every woman, every child. Whether you were born in a palace or in poverty, whether people celebrate you or ignore you, whether you carry scars or victories, every single day you are given the same power, the power to choose. My friends, never underestimate the power that lies within the life of one ordinary person who makes an extraordinary decision. Too often we look at history and we see the giants, the heroes, the leaders, and we think they were somehow different from us. We think they have something we do not. But the truth is, they were as ordinary as you and I. What set them apart was not their circumstances, not their resources, not their position. It was their decision to act with courage when life demanded it. Think of a woman tired from a long day's work, sitting on a bus in Montgomery, Alabama. She was not a politician. She was not a millionaire. She was not a celebrity. She was simply an ordinary woman. Yet when Rosa Parks decided that day not to give up her seat, that single choice shook the foundations of segregation and ignited a movement that transformed America. One ordinary woman, one decision, one act of courage, extraordinary impact. Consider Nelson Mandela. Locked in a prison cell for 27 years, he was a man denied freedom, stripped of power, forgotten by many. Yet within that prison cell, he made a decision. He chose forgiveness over bitterness, unity over revenge, hope over despair. When he finally walked free, he did not return to destroy his enemies. He returned to heal his nation. An ordinary man who chose to respond differently, and because of that choice, South Africa was never the same again. You see, extraordinary impact does not come from titles or positions. It comes from choices. It comes from ordinary people who decide that their lives will stand for something greater than themselves. Every great movement in history began not with the majority, but with the minority. Not with the powerful, but with the willing. Not with the extraordinary, but with the ordinary. And if you look around today, you will still see it. A single parent working 2 jobs, choosing not to give up, raising children with dignity and love that is extraordinary. A teacher in a small classroom, choosing to believe in a child that everyone else has written off, that is extraordinary. A young man resisting the pressure to give in to crime, choosing instead to walk the narrow road of discipline and integrity, that is extraordinary. These stories may never make the history books, but they shape generations. They remind us that greatness is not measured by applause, but by impact, not by fame, but by faithfulness. My friends, never underestimate your influence. You may think, I am just one person. What difference can I make? But history answers that question with a resounding voice. One person can change everything. When Martin Luther King Jr. spoke his dream into the heart of a divided nation, he was just one man with a vision. When Mother Teresa bent down to pick up the dying from the streets of Calcutta, she was just one woman with compassion. When Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, he was just one leader with conviction. Each of them ordinary, yet each of them willing. The question is not whether you are ordinary. The question is whether you are willing. Willing to take the step when it is unpopular. Willing to stand when others bow. Willing to act when fear tells you to remain silent. That is where extraordinary impact is born. Do not despise the days of small beginnings. Do not look at your life and think it is too insignificant to matter. Every great tree began as a small seed. Every great river began as a tiny stream. Every great movement began as a whisper in someone's heart. Ordinary beginnings can carry extraordinary endings if you dare to believe in the value of your choice. You are not invisible. You are not insignificant. You may not carry a crown, but you carry influence. You may not hold office, but you hold responsibility. Somewhere, someone is watching your life, and the choices you make will give them either permission to quit or permission to continue. You may never know the names of those you inspire, but they will never forget the impact you had. Extraordinary impact is not about changing the whole world overnight. It is about changing one life at a time. It is about leaving people better than you found them. It is about making choices that ripple beyond yourself. And when enough ordinary people make extraordinary choices, entire nations are transformed. My friends, change is one of the most certain and unavoidable realities of life. Everything around us is in constant motion. Seasons change, generations change, nations change, economies change, and we ourselves are constantly changing. Yet, even though change is inevitable, growth within that change is not, because growth requires perseverance. It requires the willingness to endure, to keep moving, to keep believing even when the process feels slow, uncertain, and uncomfortable. Perseverance is not simply waiting, it is enduring with expectation. It is holding on in the storm, not because the storm is easy, but because you believe the sun will shine again. Change, by its nature, is disruptive. It shakes the familiar. It demands that we leave behind what is comfortable, and that is why many people resist it. But change is the birthplace of transformation, and perseverance is the bridge that carries us through it. Think about the caterpillar. On the surface, it is just a crawling creature, fragile and ordinary. But when its time of change comes, it enters the cocoon. Inside that cocoon, there is struggle, there is confinement, there is breaking and remaking. From the outside, it looks like death. From the inside, it feels like darkness. But if the caterpillar could speak, it would tell you that the cocoon is not its prison, it is its process. And if it perseveres, it will not come out the same way it entered. It will emerge with wings. My friends, many of you are in a cocoon season right now. You may feel pressed, limited, or hidden, but perseverance in this season is what prepares you to fly. Consider the farmer who plants his seeds in the soil. For weeks, there is no visible sign of progress. The ground looks the same. Day after day, he waters the soil, and still nothing seems to change. But what he cannot see is that beneath the surface, life is breaking through. Roots are forming, strength is developing, foundations are being laid. If the farmer gives up too soon, if he stops watering, he destroys the harvest that was on its way. In the same way, perseverance during unseen seasons is what allows us to step into visible breakthroughs. Perseverance in change also requires faith. Faith that what lies ahead is greater than what lies behind. Faith that even though the process is painful, the outcome will be worth it. Look at history. Every great reform, every liberation, every revolution for justice was born through people who persevered. They faced rejection, imprisonment, ridicule, and yet they did not give up. Why? Because they believed in what they could not yet see. Perseverance is not blind endurance. It is vision-led endurance. It is the ability to see beyond the present pain into the promise of the future. Change will always test your resolve. It will ask you, do you really want what you say you want? Do you really believe in the vision you speak of? And the proof of belief is perseverance. Anybody can celebrate the beginning, and anybody can celebrate the end, but perseverance is what keeps you standing in the middle. The middle is where most people quit. The middle is where doubt is loudest. The middle is where progress seems invisible. But the middle is also where character is forged, where strength is developed, and where destiny is shaped. There is no greatness without perseverance. There is no transformation without endurance. Even diamonds, the most precious of stones, are formed under pressure. Even gold is purified by fire. Even athletes who break records must train their bodies beyond exhaustion. The glory you admire in others is the product of perseverance through change. Some of you are in seasons where everything feels uncertain. The job has shifted, the relationships have changed, the future looks unclear, and the temptation is to walk away, to settle, to give up. But I tell you, do not despise this season, for it is in seasons of change that new doors open, that hidden strength rises, and that destiny unfolds. Perseverance in change is not easy, but it is necessary. And remember, perseverance is not about speed, it is about consistency. It is not about how fast you run, but that you keep moving forward. Even if the steps are small, progress is being made. The river that carves valleys through stone does not do it in a day. It does it through perseverance, drop after drop, moment after moment, refusing to stop until the change is complete. So when you find yourself in the middle of change, when everything feels uncertain, when the road ahead feels long, remind yourself that perseverance is the evidence that you believe. Keep pressing, keep pushing, keep holding on. Because the cocoon is not the end, it is preparation. The soil is not empty, it is working. The storm is not forever, it is passing. My friends, is one of the most powerful forces in the human heart. It is the whisper that tells you tomorrow can be better than today. It is the light that refuses to go out in the middle of the storm. Hope carried nations through wars. It has carried families through poverty. It has carried individuals through sickness and despair. But as powerful as hope is, hope alone is not enough. Because hope without responsibility is only a dream. And dreams without action fade away. Every one of us has been given the gift of life, the gift of time, the gift of choice. And with that gift comes responsibility. Responsibility to ourselves, to our families, to our communities, to our future. You cannot pass this responsibility to someone else. You cannot wait for someone else to live your life for you. You must take it into your own hands. The moment you accept personal responsibility is the moment you step into personal authority. Responsibility is the foundation of freedom. There are people who sit and wait, saying, when things change, then I will act. When opportunities come, then I will move. When life becomes easier, then I will take responsibility. But the truth is the opposite. Life changes when you decide to take responsibility. Opportunities come when you prepare yourself for them. Life becomes easier when you discipline yourself in the hard times. Responsibility is not a burden. It is a doorway. And those who walk through it discover strength, discover purpose, discover a future they never thought possible. Look at the men and women who have changed the course of history. They did not sit and wait for permission. They did not blame their past. They did not surrender to their pain. They took responsibility. They said, if it is to be, it begins with me. And that mindset turned ordinary men and women into leaders, visionaries, and reformers. The same principle applies to you. You may not be able to control every circumstance, but you are responsible for your response, and your response shapes your destiny. Responsibility also means making decisions that others avoid. It means choosing forgiveness when bitterness feels easier. It means choosing discipline when laziness is tempting. It means choosing courage when fear is loud. These choices are not easy, but they are the choices that create a better future. Responsibility requires you to stop pointing fingers at others and start asking yourself, what can I do today? What step can I take now? What change begins with me? And yet, responsibility alone is not enough. It must be partnered with hope. Because without hope, responsibility becomes a heavy weight. Without hope, responsibility feels like pressure. Hope breathes life into responsibility. Hope tells you that your effort is not in vain. Hope tells you that your sacrifice matters. Hope tells you that tomorrow is worth fighting for. Responsibility drives you forward, and hope lifts you upward. Together they are unstoppable. Do not underestimate the ripple effect of your responsibility. When you take responsibility for your choices, you inspire others to do the same. A parent who takes responsibility to raise their children with love sets a pattern that echoes for generations. A leader who takes responsibility to serve with integrity shifts the culture of an entire community. A young person who takes responsibility for their education may inspire a family, a school, even a neighborhood. Responsibility is contagious. When you embrace it, others are encouraged to follow. And here is the beauty of hope. It does not require everything to be perfect. Hope shines brightest in the darkest night. Hope sings its loudest songs in the deepest valleys. Hope thrives not in the absence of problems, but in the presence of vision. When you look at your life and declare, this is not the end, this is not where my story finishes, you awaken hope. And when that hope is joined with responsibility, you begin to write a new chapter for your life. So, I challenge you to see beyond your present struggles. I challenge you to rise above excuses. I challenge you to stop waiting for the world to hand you something and instead decide to create something. Responsibility is not about what you have lost. It is about what you can still build. Hope is not about denying reality. It is about believing in possibility. When you join them together, nothing can hold you back. You are not powerless. You are not helpless. You are not forgotten. You are a person with choice, with responsibility, with hope. And when you choose to carry them together, you do not just change your life, you change the lives of those around you. My friends, we have walked together through the truth of life's greatest gift, the power of choice. We have seen how ordinary people who dared to decide became extraordinary forces of change. We have discovered that perseverance in seasons of change is not weakness, but the very birthplace of transformation. And we have been reminded that responsibility and hope are not enemies, but partners that lift us into the life we were created to live. Now, here is the truth that ties it all together. You are never more than one decision away from a new life. The power to rise, the power to change, the power to impact, the power to persevere, and the power to hope. It is already within you. It is not waiting on your neighbor, not waiting on your government, not waiting on your circumstances. It is waiting on you. The question you must answer is not, can I, but will I? Will you choose courage over fear? Will you decide to rise when life knocks you down? Will you accept responsibility for your destiny instead of handing it away? Will you dare to hope again, even when the night feels long? Because the answer you give will not just shape your future, it will shape the future of everyone connected to you. My friends, history has never been changed by those who stood still. It has always been changed by those who chose to move forward. And right now, in this very moment, you have that same choice before you. So stand tall, lift your head, look beyond where you are and see where you can be. And remember this unshakable truth: you are one decision away from a new life.